Hey guys, welcome back as always, my name is Techzar. Today what we're going to be doing is basically kind of giving you an overview of the RTX 5090 ASUS TUF OC edition. Essentially this is meant to serve as bits of information for prospective buyers. Essentially what I'm going to be doing today is giving you some real user perspectives on the card, what I like, what I didn't like, and how the whole experience went. So first of all, this is an ASUS TUF board. Honestly, there's nothing special in the box. It's the same old packaging. It does the job. You do get a decent amount of accessories. You do get the 4 8-pin to the 12-volt connector, which, by the way, is still terrible, unfortunately. And we had a couple of connectors already melt, not on this card specifically, but if you watch their power or actually hardcore overclocking, you should be aware right now these connectors are still melting even in the 50 series. Apparently Nvidia did the following: they took a bad design, I guess I could also call it a potentially catastrophic design, and just said, hey, push more power through it without any increase in the tolerances, and by that I mean increase in the actual safety margins. Essentially this one can go up to 660 watts. That's only a 10% headroom. Now, from what I get, any electrical engineer, not that I am one by any stretch of the imagination, will tell you that such a design and such low headroom on 600 watts is a little bit nuts. So there you go. As long as you do want the 5090, you need to contend with this. Of course, we can get to undervolting, we can get to limiting that maximum power to something like 90% or 80%, etc. But that's a discussion for another time. Today, I just want to give you a brief overview. The build quality of the board is sturdy, metal, perfect, tough ASUS. Basically what you saw in the 40 series, you're going to be seeing in the 50 series as well. I am very happy with the build quality of the board. Obviously cosmetic side not included. You got a bit of RGB there for those of you guys that want some RGB to match to the rest of your system. That is also possible. I'm glad that they didn't overdo it. But now talking about things that matter a bit more, the cooling solution. Now, as far as I can tell, this one has the same cooling solution as you can find on the Astral, minus the borderline useless fourth fan. The Astral has one additional fan. It's supposed to help with that. It doesn't really do much of anything, and the cooling solution performed well, I believe. With the window off the case, it basically held 69-ish degrees in full load. I'm talking about an actual stability test. Full blast 100%. Now, if I do put the window on the case, it goes to 73, 74 if I use the whole computer full bore 100% AIDA64 style. So an actual extreme case where, let's be honest, it's not really gonna happen all that often. So 74 degrees for this cooling solution, completely on air, no water. I find it to be pretty darn good. Now, what about those noise levels? Now, honestly, the noise levels seem to be very similar to the 40 series, nothing more, nothing less. These fans are okay. They're nothing mind-blowing. They're not ultra, mega, whatever marketing ASUS baked into these. They do the job. They're not too loud from my perspective. What's more important from my point of view is Coil Whine, especially if you prefer a more quiet system. Now, I know 3 other people with this card, this specific model, the OC ASUS TUF 5090, and all of those boards have Coil Whine. This one had it at the start. It's weird. It basically, when you go full bore, it has it a little bit at the start, but as it warms up, vanishes. Even when it does have, it has the tiniest amount in the sense that I really need to listen for it, go close to the actual card to find it. And if that's the case, for me, is good enough. Coil Whine is not something about the quality of the components necessarily, it's more like a lottery, so there you go. You might get a board with Coil Whine and you might not. Thankfully for me, this one basically has nothing. I can't even hear it now, even at 30% load. We're not going to be talking about price, MSRP, and the price to performance, price per dollar, because that is completely irrelevant at this point since nobody sells these cards for MSRP. And in Europe, where I live, these are going from scalpers because you cannot find them from a regular store, since no store actually had decent pre-orders outside of overclockers.uk, but that's in the UK, not in Europe, blah, 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 blah. 4,000 euros plus. Now, for those of you guys in America, that's about $4,400, something of the sort. And I also saw them on eBay going for about upwards of 10 grand in the USA. I think the higher models, the more desirable models, the one that basically look better, something like the Astral or the Astral water cooled or liquid cooled, I think those were going for 6,500 euro, which is about 7,000 So talking about price to performance is a joke right now. It's not really relevant from my point of view. If you have money to burn, money to burn. If you're buying this one for work, sure, go for it. You're going to be getting yourself that revenue back. And it's not really going to be an issue for you. But if you're just, man, I want a game, I want to save up, I want to buy this car so I can have a bit more FPS, then don't. In my opinion, wait for the AMD cards, and hopefully the 9070 XT will actually offer much better value for gamers. But as it's looking, it's not really looking so good. On the other hand, if you're a creator, then going for Nvidia simply gives you a whole bunch of perks like the brand new encoder, which a lot of us are interested in. It is what it is at the end of the day. Again, I am not happy. This has been by far the absolute worst GPU launch I have seen in like forever. Actually, this is the actual worst GPU launch I have ever seen so far. Basically, the cards are nowhere. They are scalped immediately and you need to pay a scalper's price. I'm talking about regular folk. I'm not talking about reviewers, YouTubers, etc. that do get their samples for review, which is great for us because we get to know more about specific models. But for everyday guys, I don't know. It has been an absolute pain for the 5090. The 5080s I found a bunch. Hasn't been all that hard to get. The 5080, however, doesn't really propose the best value proposition, since, especially if you follow along with Hardware Unboxed, you see that the 5080 is really bad price to performance, price per dollar. It's basically kind of like a 5070-ish. So there you go. Then on the other hand, let's say you got... I'm going to be taking just for once into account prices in Europe, because you guys in the US always get it your way. The MSRP in the US was $1,000, but realistically speaking, 5080s are going for about 1,500 euro in Europe right now, which is about $1,800, give or take. So if you got that kind of money, my opinion, why don't you get a second-hand 4080? Just get a second-hand 4080. It doesn't need to be the Super. The difference between the 4080 and 4080 Super is 4%. Who cares? 4, 3, 2, 5, whatever, depending on the game. So it doesn't really matter all that much. Whichever you find a better deal on, make sure it has still available warranty and all of that good stuff. So yeah, instead of blowing that kind of money, try to look at the second-hand market. This is my advice to if you're just gaming, if you just want a game, and if you don't want to wait for the AMD cards, even though we really need some competition in this space, hopefully in the years to come. But rant over, because I can keep going on and on about that topic. Regardless, let's get back to the ASUS RTX 5090 TUF OC variant. I ran this one at stock value, still Nomad 3D Mark, 14,536 points. Now, we don't really, or better said, I don't really run anything at stock values, and we started overclocking quick and dirty with MSI Afterburner. I also tried OC Tweak, whatever ASUS's thing is, OC Tweak 3. I found it slow, cumbersome, and overall annoying, or maybe I'm just getting old and I'm set in my ways. I recommend MSI Afterburner. So basically, we kind of went up in increments: 14,800, 14,900, 15,100 when we boosted the memory. And in the end, the highest score we managed to get without fretting too much, without fine-tuning too much, was 15,376, which is actually in the top 9%, which is pretty good for quick and dirty overclocking, strictly on air. No LN2, nothing too advanced, none of that. And the CPU used was a Ryzen 9 7950X 3D. We're going to be switching to the, well, actually, I'm waiting for the 9950X 3D. If you're just interested in gaming, I would just go for the 9800X 3D. If you're a content creator as well and you want to have that extra oomph when it comes to rendering, do check out the 9950. And the best of both worlds will be 9950X 3D, basically. Before I go further, may I recommend you a couple of things. If you're into the market for a 5090, it is true that only the Founder Editions up until this point have had melted connectors. I didn't see any report of a non-Founders card. Then again, they're like, I don't know if 1,000 of these things actually got real consumers in the wild, so I have no idea, since the stock was basically a joke. But not starting that rant again, I would recommend you get an H++ cable. Yeah, you can see it on the side. Previously I had an H+, I changed to a brand new cable following what Tiny Tom Logan recommended us first to use non-stressed out cables. This is a brand new cable from Corsair, an H++. It is the one native to the power supply, the HX1500i. And from what I observed, and I do not have a thermal imaging camera, but those cables, damn, they get hot. Again, I do not have a camera, a thermal camera, to see what exactly is the measurement. However, just simply by touching it and feeling it, I would estimate around 43 degrees Celsius, which is pretty dang hot, all in all, considering, again, we're talking about 600 watts being pushed through that cable. And we don't really have a whole lot of fail-safes, unfortunately. So, my friends, if you are in the market for a 5090, please take care. Make sure you use a brand new cable. Make sure you use a H++, and keep your eye for any update on how to hopefully not burn our very expensive GPUs. Maybe Nvidia wants to get into the real estate business and get people new houses, so they're trying to get rid of the old one. But hey, what do I know? And I do believe that's pretty much it for my initial impressions of the ASUS TUF RTX 5090. In terms of gameplay, I only played a couple of games. I was mostly benchmarking, testing, stress testing, that kind of thing. And it was basically the flawless gaming experience. Now, I'll be honest, I don't really like frame generation all that much outside of single-player immersive titles, that's fine. And I'm really not a fan of DLSS or upscalers in general, so essentially I use the card without these, and it was just a dream in the games that I have tested so far. Basically, it's as high as it can go. A couple of things that I played for 5 minutes a piece, more or less. Path of Exile 2, Warframe, which was running at, I don't know how many 100 FPS, it was hilarious. Horizon Zero Dawn and Horizon Forbidden West. For Zero Dawn, make sure you get the remaster, it looks better. If you're a fan of the series, it's an amazing game. I also tried a little bit of Baldur's Gate 3, and that was like beautiful. And of course, Black Myth Wukong and Warhammer 40k Space Marines. I don't think the values are all that relevant for you, because again, I don't think you're gonna have the exact same configuration, and I don't have a million charts to show you the comparison points. All I can say you is that from a down-to-earth user experience, it was just insane. And I was coming from a 4080, a pretty strong card, but the jump to the 5090 was more than significant. And I do believe that's pretty much it. If you got specific questions about this model, let me know in the comment section down below. I'll try my best to answer them. As always, my name has been Techzar, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.